Hello everyone, Percy7 here, back with some more Bloons Tower Defense 6 on this week of Bloonarius, which was on Hedge. We are trying out the Super Primary Expertise versus Bloonarius. Now, Primary Expertise is usually used as kind of a support tower. The last time I kind of saw Expertise being kind of mentioned or talked about a lot within the community was when Mauler spam was kind of a, I wouldn't really say dominant strategy, but a fairly good strategy. Ever since that, Primary Expertise isn't really known for its really much support, as it only gives pierce, not damage, which is what misconception I kind of see kind of a lot. Anyways, I figured to show Primary Expertise some loves doing on this week, especially since for this week, there's not really kind of a good lot of places for non-global range towers, and Expertise is a pretty good, global range tower, so I figured, hey, why not? Now, before we get into actual tests, I want to go over some stats of Primary Expertise. If you didn't know what Primary Expertise gives once you upgrade from Tier 4 to Tier 5, it gives +3 Pierce to Primary Monkeys, increases its range by 7, so it goes from 48 range to 55 range, and it adds a Ballista Attack. The Ballista Attack fires every 2.5 seconds and pops 10 layers per hit. It has up to 100 Pierce, and it deals 200 damage to Ceramic and Mob class Bloons, which is a heck of a lot of damage. I was actually thinking Expertise's damage was only 100 damage. I figured it's probably the same as Elim, but I guess not. Over 200 damage to Mob class Bloons, which is honestly crazy. So for Tier 1, it's literally just rush Primary Expertise. Thankfully this week wasn't really all that difficult, so I was able to afford Expertise while keeping 2 marketplaces, which was nice. And the good thing about Primary Expertise is that it's good enough to be able to solo the Ceramic Wave as well as just Bloonarius in general. I did decide to give it some speed buffs just to kind of make this here a bit faster, but I figured that it wasn't really need to actually go for Overclock, just like a base Alchemist to just increase that attack speed just kind of a little bit. I figured it couldn't really hurt to go for Overclock anyways, and plus I don't really need to farm that hard, as Primary Expertise isn't really all that expensive. It's definitely among the cheaper end of all the towers I've done. But I mean, if you just saw there, it's just like Primary Expertise just straight up deleted the Ceramic Cluster as well. And so, yeah, the 200 damage per shot is really doing quick work of Tier 1 of Bloonarius. Kind of the weirdest way to actually beat in Bloonarius so far. But I mean, hey, it works. Just looking at the, how well, Primary Expertise is against that Ceramic Clump, I will say that, Expertise probably wouldn't be that bad when it comes to cleaning up Super Ceramics late game, since it does do 200 damage per shot. The only thing you'd have to worry about is, Expertise's slow attack speed that probably would probably have it whiff or just kind of not shoot when you kind of need it to. So I guess that could be an interesting kind of strategy there, but then again, I feel like there would definitely be better options when it comes to cleaning up Super Ceramics, but it is an option to, I guess, kind of consider. So, since we're almost done with Tier 1, which was a pretty speedy kill, if I'm being a bit honest, I figured sell Overclock just a bit early to afford my BRF on round 48. Now, for Tier 2, I ultimately just kind of did the similar thing to what I just did for Tier 1, getting an Alchemist just to increase that attack speed just a little bit more, as well as getting a Overclock down, as well as like just Jungle Drums. Just trying to increase that attack speed just as much as I can, as really the damage that Primary Expertise deals is already there, 200 damage per shot. It's just kind of the attack speed that's just a bit slow, and it's kind of surprising that the attack speed used to be like at 3 seconds, like 1 every 3 seconds, which, I mean, I guess 2.5 isn't really that much faster than 3 seconds, but it does make a bit of a difference. And the good thing about Expertise is that since the attacks do ricochet from balloon to balloon, I am able to keep this on strong and defend insides at the same time, as the Ballista attack will just end up ricocheting up to the balloons that are kind of getting a bit too far along the track. Skipping forward just a tad bit to when I get my Ban Essential on round 67. Again, Primary Expertise is doing pretty well so far, so it was really, we're just kind of doing what it just was before. Not really much too interesting to really show here, but I guess Central on round 67 isn't really all that bad. Now, I kind of felt as though I just want to get this tier over a Bloonarius with, so I just got to call to arms down real quickly just to hopefully speed up this tier just a little bit faster. Bloonarius is getting decently farm on the track, still not really far enough to really worry about him exiting, but did just kind of want to get him off the screen so I can actually focus on farming as much as possible, because I still actually need to beat another Bloonarius come round 80. So tier 3 Bloonarius rolled in, and I completely forgot to sell my attack zone and embrittlement at the beginning of the track, so that was kind of an oops by me, especially since I actually got homeland kind of later on, which is doubling the attack speed of attack zone. This, of course, this was actually made before the attack zone nerfs, but I guess to Bloonarius, attack zone nerfs don't really matter here, so it was kind of a bit of a blunder by me. But I still think that even without attack zone kind of helping out in the beginning, expertise still was doing pretty well. That I was actually confident in just getting even more BRFs up at this point. And you can see, you know, attack zone is absolutely just kind of shredding this kind of first bit of Bloonarius. So that was kind of a bit of a blunder on my part, completely forgetting to sell attack zone. But I guess it's kind of a whatever change. Anyways, the only changes I really made was just kind of getting homeland, and oh, that was it. And I figured that with double attack speed on expertise, you know, it is shooting pretty fast when doing that. I figured a double attack speed was definitely going to help out more than enough in order to actually beat this tier Bloonarius, since I didn't really count on having attack zone really helping out in the kind of early phases. But in primary expertise and Wolf attack zone is helping out. Well, I guess attack zone did do most of the damage here, if I'm being completely honest. Well, I guess this does really show just how good attack zone is. Even after exiting the range, you know, Bloonarius is basically dead at this point, so expertise is really just like cleaning up the last thousands of HP that Bloonarius had left at this point. Sell homeland and of course alchemist for even more farms. So tier 4 rolls around, and expertise is really going crazy with just the insane amount of attack speed, giving, you know, ultra boost and perma brew, homeland, and everything is really just kind of goes to show just how greatly those buffs do in the stack. Cripple mob and super brittle are basically useless, especially, you know, glue storm, as again this tower already does 200 damage, so we're not really adding a whole lot of damage kind of doing all this anyways. But again, just for consistency's sake, I still decided to get them anyways, as who knows, maybe that extra bit of damage that they add will end up helping. Decided to go for my temple since I had so much money at this point, and I figured I probably might as well just go for it and not just delay it. Figured that I was gonna need it for tier 5 anyways, so it's better off just kind of getting it now and not just like waiting until tier 5 actually kind of rolls around. Now, if you do need if you didn't know, temple with only support sacrifices isn't all that great, as if you've seen my other super buff videos, you'd know that it does a really pitiful amount of damage. I'm sure if you kind of look at the BTD 6 Popology page about just the damage that a base True Sun God does, you'd know that's not really kind of a whole lot. So when I ended up looking, I've noticed that True Sun God wasn't actually in range of primary expertise, so I ended up selling it. Not really sure why I did that, seeing as it probably just would have been better if I just went for a village and of course like Chinook to permabrew or something like that, instead of actually just trying to go for, instead of just like creating an entirely new temple, because I did lose a decent amount of money doing. But anyways, primary expertise with max buff is still struggling quite a bit to this tier of Bloonarius. Just a bit surprising, seeing as again, you know, I figure with all the attack speed buffs I'm giving it, the expertise is really struggling to kind of break down that, you know, 750 HP of Bloonarius, and we still only have we still do have quite a bit more. Thankfully with the True Sun God buff now, we should be doing slightly better. I didn't really bother kind of Chinooking at the beginning. I didn't really bother Chinooking like, you know, brittle or cripple mob, simply just because again they aren't really doing too much at this stage. I did have to Chinook permabrew to actually, you know, get it in range of the, so that way, you know, the True Sun God is in range of the primary expertise. Bloonarius is like, well, like, I don't know, I'd probably say like 33% of the way through the track, and you know, I don't think, and we've only just, you know, passed the first skull, making our way down towards the second. And even with all the attack speed buffs, you know, primary expertise is still struggling quite a bit to this tier of Bloonarius. I'm gonna say, anyone else who knows a pattern with all these kind of super buff tower videos? is that, you know, the towers that do high damage, but like, you know, massive amounts of damage, but don't really have a greatest attack speed, end up doing worse than all the low damage fast stacking towers. I guess that really kind of makes sense. Thinking at, you know, the damage buffs that you're kind of giving all those low damage towers are kind of multiplying their DPS and attack speed versus really the damage buffs here are just kind of additive. They aren't really doing too much. Like, you know, doubling the damage of attack zone, or giving attack zone +1 damage is a lot stronger than, you know, giving like primary expertise +1 damage. As it's not really a whole lot of change. Thankfully, expertise was eventually able to take down this tier Bloonarius, although was a bit of a struggle. I will say, you know, Bloonarius did make it to like, well, like a bit over halfway through the track, and that was only the 750,000 HP version, not the 3 million that tier 5 had. So tier 5 rolls around, not really much I can actually add into primary expertise, as I just kind of have to hope and pray that hopefully that primary expertise will be able to do enough damage, even with I guess the not so great showing that it did with tier 4. Kind of looking at the DPS, it's not, Bloonarius' HP is not going down a whole lot. It just goes to show kind of even doing 200 damage, it still does not do, still doesn't really put too much of a dent into just kind of Bloonarius' HP. Even with all the attack speed buffs, like, you know, with Ultra Boost and Homeland, it's still just kind of not enough in order to really chip down Bloonarius' HP. Maybe if there was only some other forms of attack speed buffs that wasn't mainly like, you know, Homeland and Ultra Boost, but unfortunately, really the only thing we have is really only damage buffs from, like, you know, True Sun God. Well, I guess Perma does give some slight attack speed buffs. It's not really a whole lot. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. Did have high hopes for it, seeing how well it did for, you know, for tier 1, tier 2, but I guess it's just kind of like I said, like, you know, like with, you know, it's kind of similar situation to Elim. You know, all the high damage but slow attacking towers don't really do as well as the low damage fast attacking towers, which does make sense when you think about it. Just like how, you know, super buff triple dart would do much better than a super buff crossbow. But I guess that's that is sort of intentional, and I guess NK doesn't really expect you kind of do this for bosses anyways, as it is kind of a bit silly. Skipping forward a lot, we end up dying to the second bad that Bloonarius ends up spawning, which is really a bit of a shame. But if you enjoyed the video, you know, like, comment, subscribe, join Discord. Link is down below in the description.